Does Devin Haney have a chance against Brian Norman? I think he does, but boy, is it going to be a difficult and dangerous task for him because he's fighting somebody at 147 when he's never fought at welterweight before, and Brian Norman's no joke. Maybe if you don't pay too much attention to the sport of boxing, you guys aren't familiar with Brian Norman, but he's coming off one of the biggest knockouts we've seen this year, if not the 2025 knockout of the year candidate. So I feel like Brian Norman has all the momentum. You got a guy like Devin Haney. We're all worried about his chin, and everybody says he's afraid to get hit, but in this fight in particular, he might have a big reason why he should be afraid to get hit. And Brian Norman, like I said, he was supposed to make a big fight with Boots happen. That fell through for, a multitude of reasons. Boots said that, Brian Norman outpriced himself, and then Brian Norman wanted to fight Boots a little bit sooner, like around now. And Boots is saying that he outgrew 147 and he's moving up to 154. So we got a lot of history surrounding, Brian Norman and Boots already. Hopefully we get that fight in the future. But Devin Haney, you guys know, I'm a fan of Devin Haney's. I like, Devin. I've talked to Devin. I've talked to Bill. Bill's a great dude. Nice dude, always gives me time. But I feel like Devin Haney really has to pull out all the tricks he has. I don't even care if Devin Haney makes this fight a boring fight. And, a lot of you guys might say he ran if he wins this fight, but I think he's going to have to be mobile. I think he's going to have to do what he does best and box. Maybe not move to the excessive point that he did against Jose Ramirez, but still, I don't think Devin can stand right in front of this guy in exchange with Brian Norman. That'd be a horrible game plan, and I think Devin and Bill Haney are just too smart to go with that game plan. So I think Devin has a chance at this one, and I think if he beats Brian Norman, I don't favor it. I kind of favor Brian Norman just slightly. I think Devin can definitely pull it off, but it's just that power and the fact that this dude's the world champion at 147. I mean, Devin's definitely going to come into that fight as the underdog against Norman, and for good reason. Like I said, Devin's never fought at 147, and he's making his debut against the champion in November. So Devin is one of those guys, clearly. You guys can say whatever you want about him, but he's not afraid to fight anybody. Brian Norman's not even a big name, but he's probably the most dangerous fight you could take. So if you're talking about a fighter that takes risk with little reward, you're talking about Devin Haney taking this fight with Brian Norman. So much respect to Devin. You don't see a lot of guys doing that. And no offense to Boots, but like this situation made Boots look bad. And I'm not saying that Boots is ducking. I don't know what actually happened. Only Boots and Brian Norman know what really went on in the negotiation process that made their fight fall through, because that was a good fight, and I hope it does happen at 154 at some point. But the fact that it fell through and then Devin Haney comes in to steal the challenge from Boots Ennis, that's a sign that Devin Haney has the heart. Devin Haney is bold in that, and I feel like he deserves respect. He got a lot of my respect. I didn't enjoy his last performance. I don't think that's the Devin Haney that I'm used to seeing, or the Devin Haney that I became a fan of. That just wasn't him. He didn't throw many punches at all. And like I said, I agree with a lot of the people that say he moved a lot. He did move a lot, but that's part of boxing as well. And I feel like we're still yet to see the best version of Devin, because I think he just had to get his foot back through that door. And if he shows up 100% against Brian Norman, I think he can pull it off. I think it's a close fight, because everybody, like even me, I'm guilty of recency bias. I just saw Brian Norman knock out Jin Sasaki easily in Japan in his home turf. And then I'm thinking, oh, Devin's going to be in serious trouble. He might be, and this is a very dangerous opponent, but styles make fights. Devin's not going to sit right in front of Brian Norman in an exchange with him and try to get the respect of, Brian Norman with his punching power, because I feel like Devin has learned his lesson with Ryan Garcia, or at least I hope he has, because, that was probably career altering for Devin Haney. So he's going to be very smart in this fight, trust me. And there's a good chance, he beats Brian Norman. I honestly think it's like a 50-50 fight. I think Devin Haney's that good, but, his last performance against Ramirez wasn't an indication of who he is at his maximum potential, in my opinion. So Devin Haney, Brian Norman, not an easy fight at all to call, but everybody's going to lean towards Brian Norman. I even myself, lean slightly towards Brian Norman because of the punching power, the physical strength. But if we're talking about lateral movement, hand speed, I think Devin might have the advantage, and Devin might have the better IQ. And like I said, styles make fights. Devin won't sit in front of him and allow Brian Norman to catch him. At least, he won't do that intentionally, obviously, but I don't know. You know, Devin is definitely a real one for taking this fight, because this is a scary opponent for sure, but I think Devin and Bill Haney are going to come up with a strong game plan to make sure that that big punch doesn't land. And who knows, maybe Devin can pull it off. That would put Devin at a crazy level, a pound for pound level, back in the pound for pound conversation if he's able to beat Brian Norman. But Brian Norman hits hard. We could tell that from his last few performances. So very entertaining fight. I love the fight, but we'll see what happens. Very dangerous for Devin Haney. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Like, comment, and subscribe. It's been your boy Matt with Navs Boxing, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.